Good morning, growers, and welcome to the Growing Garden channel. I am Pietro Isolan, and today we are going to discuss methods to protect your vegetable garden from excessive heat. This is an issue that we didn't have to worry about in the past, but unfortunately with climate change it has become increasingly common. I am currently in an area south of Florence where many people have experienced their tomatoes drying up due to hot winds in July and August. Even though they were watered regularly, the plants still dried up because the high temperatures dehydrated them. Now, why does this happen? The ideal temperature range for plants to grow is between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. But when the temperature exceeds 40 degrees Celsius, the plants undergo immense stress. The flow of sap decreases for various reasons, resulting in the inability of the plant to transport sugars from the leaves to the fruit. As a result, we also face difficulties with fruit ripening. Furthermore, if the soil is left exposed, there is a risk of it becoming overly hot and damaging the plant's roots. The combination of insufficient root development and leaf damage pushes the plant into a crisis, eventually causing it to stop growing. Now, what can we do to combat these issues? In this video, I present a strategy consisting of 5 methods that can be used individually or in combination with each other. Before implementing these methods, it is important to analyze your specific situation. Remember to consider factors such as the location of your vegetable garden, the direction of prevailing winds, and the presence of any existing plants. To illustrate this, I will show you my own situation as an example. The area of my vegetable garden that I am currently focusing on faces west, which is advantageous as it isn't directly exposed to the full force of the southern sun. As it is currently 11 o'clock in the morning, the sun will reach its highest point at noon, affecting the vegetable garden's position significantly. It's necessary to find ways to minimize its impact in order to create a more suitable environment for plant growth. Side. So the vegetable garden remains fully exposed to the sun from 9:30 to 10 in the morning and until sunset, which happens in the west behind those hills. The prevailing winds that I was telling you about, on the other hand, that have dried up tomatoes not only to me but here in the area, to everybody for 2 years in a row, they come from the north instead because the winds funnel into this valley where the vineyard is, and they come over the vegetable garden on this side here. It comes this way and it goes into the vegetable garden in this direction, so it comes from the northwest. There is then a second part of the vegetable garden here that is well protected from the winds by these trees. There are olive trees, a wild plum tree, more wild plum trees on the other side, so we have very effective windbreaks here. At this point, we are going to look at the first method to defend ourselves from the heat. The first method I'm going to show you is to put fruit plants in the vegetable garden, yes, because more and more the tendency is to make a half-shade vegetable garden that is not a vegetable garden, completely covered by plants. Light is needed, it's clear. We don't do crazy things, but at the same time create a shade that, turning during the day, goes to protect our seedlings in turn. So come with me and I'll show you what I did. This fig came from the larger fig tree back there. Through the roots, I took a sprout and let it grow right here in the middle of the vegetable garden. Then I'm going to contain it with prunings because otherwise it becomes giant to me. So I'm going to really contain the size so that it will shade me but not cover my whole vegetable garden. And then down here in the area most exposed to the sun and wind, I planted a pear tree. Here it is, the pear tree. I put it right here because it is at the area that is most affected by the wind. So it will somehow act as a windbreak for the flower beds that are here above. By the way, the fig and pear tree, in addition to picking fruit to make jam and eat at home, you get good for snacking in the garden as long as you are working. The underlying principle behind this method is that all things eventually come back. A second technique which I propose involves utilizing certain rock powders like Cuban zeolite or kaolin. These rock powders create a protective layer on the leaves, acting as insulation. Originally developed to combat fungi and repel insects, it was unexpectedly discovered that it also provides insulation against extreme temperatures, both hot and cold, and offers frost protection as well. How should this method be implemented? It is quite straightforward. Dissolve approximately 3 to 4 grams of rock powder per liter of water, which is roughly equal to 1 tablespoon. pour it into the sprayer. And we go and give it to the plants thrive when given proper care. One effective method to protect their leaves is by using Cuban zeolite. This remarkable material shields around 50%, if not more, of the leaf's surface from the harsh sun rays. Rather than penetrating and damaging cells, the rays are reflected off the white surface. Another beneficial technique is mulching, which serves two purposes. Firstly, it helps retain moisture in the soil, thereby lowering the temperature. Secondly, it creates a barrier between the soil and the sun, preventing the roots and aerial parts of the plants from getting overheated and potentially harmed. These strategies are strategic and essential for ensuring the health and well-being of plants, because the soil then returns the heat and goes to impact in these areas of the plant and damage the leaves. Allow me to demonstrate up close. By the way, I recently added mulch made from the bark of the hunting stakes I used to support the tomato plants. Interestingly, there are multiple layers of 5-year-old mulch here. Take a moment to observe the significant amount I must move to reach the soil. Before we actually reach the soil, we encounter a 10 to 15 centimeter thick layer of vegetation, which helps the soil stay soft and cool. This beneficial technique creates an optimal environment. In this iola, instead made into a traditional vegetable garden, straw was put in, which will stay here just for this year. Here is the soil that was hoed. Then, to want to re-evangelize this flower bed just at the end of the season, remove with a rake the mulch. We may need to do the work and then choose between putting it back or keeping it aside instead. During the summer, it is important to have this for protection against the heat and to save water, especially since there is also a drip system below. Let's discuss the fourth method, which focuses on water management. One essential aspect of water management is ensuring that the water is at the right temperature during times of intense heat. It is crucial for the water to be at room temperature, around 20 degrees Celsius or higher. If we use water directly taken from a well or the aqueduct, which is extremely cold at around 10 degrees Celsius, it can cause a thermal shock to the plant's roots, which are typically at 30 degrees Celsius. This drastic temperature difference of 20 degrees can disrupt the plant's balance. To avoid this, it is advisable to use a container that acts as a buffer and allows the water to reach room temperature before watering the plants. Another factor to consider is the time of day to water the plants. It is recommended to water them in the evening hours. At this strategic time, there is an availability of hours of darkness that enables the plants to absorb the water before it evaporates due to the sun's heat. By watering around 8 o'clock in the evening, while it is still light outside, we provide the plants with the whole night to calmly and effectively absorb the water. In terms of water supply, utilizing a drip system can be highly beneficial, especially during periods of intense heat. The slow and controlled release of water provided by a drip system proves to be advantageous. It can be placed under the mulch, as seen in this case, further aiding in preserving the moisture levels in the soil during hot weather conditions. I have even made a video demonstrating how to design and install a drip system, which you can find in the description of this text. Now let's move on to the fifth method, which can be considered the ultimate defense against heat in a vegetable garden, the telombreggiante. In the past, if I had mentioned using telombreggiante, shade nets on tomatoes, some might have thought I was crazy. However, times have changed, and the damage caused by intense heat is undeniable. Therefore, it's crucial to explore different systems on how to effectively utilize telombreggiante in the garden. A recommended approach involves creating fixed structures in the vegetable garden that serve multiple functions. For example, these structures can be used to support tomato plants or climbing beans by providing braces. They can also accommodate the use of non-woven fabric for frost protection in colder seasons or tarpaulin for shade during the summer. In the previous year, I demonstrated one such structure that I built, which conveniently serves as a basis for attaching tallow marking. It consists of 4 stakes with strengthened supports underneath connected by 2 wires. Last year, I used it to hang wires for my tomatoes to climb on. Now, it's immensely useful for applying the tarpaulin, which I will position in front to provide shade during noon and could even place on the other side if desired. Here is the finished job. By the way, the protection from the sun is needed for me too, because it's really hot now, it's noon. So as you can see, I took advantage of the already built structure. I created a thickness to keep the 2 posts widened so that the shading surface would be greater. I then decided to also put this layer, even though it will not directly shade the zucchini underneath, but it will act as a windbreak for the flower beds behind here. Therefore, the wind will cease within this region and have no effect on the aisle behind. Right now it's noon, so basically the zucchini will be protected from noon. You can see that they are still in mid-shade and until, let's say, I think around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, more or less, and that's good because they need to get some sun anyway. In this situation, instead of a cover, I will opt for a shading on one side. Despite the presence of trees, the south-facing side still receives sunlight until sunset. Therefore, I will focus on protecting the hottest hours of the day, namely from noon until 3 o'clock here. This way, I can ensure that this time frame is shielded from excessive heat while maintaining the existing exposure to sunlight. Let's go and witness the outcome of our actions as it is slightly after midday. By remaining on this side, we can observe the shade with this protective cover to provide us with shade. That is used to cover only these tomatoes. In case we find that the protection is insufficient, we can also adjust the angle of the shade by either propping it up on the supports or adding a different structure on this side to maintain its effectiveness. To best protect your vegetable garden from the summer heat, as I mentioned earlier, I leave you with 2 videos, both here and in the description. 2 valuable insights into 2 of the methods I told you, mulching and drip irrigation, which in these times of overheating and drought come anything but good. That's it for this video. If you have any questions left, ask them in the comments, and I'll see you at the next one. Good crops to all.